we're going to have a presentation by a special guest, Nele Dageförder. She's CEO of TransMarTech. This is Germany's Upper North Maritime Incubator, I understand. The goal of it is to drive transformation within the maritime industry. Value added, she's going to give a presentation on a study, and the title is, I'm sure she'll tell you a lot more about this, Value Added Innovation Potential for Germany's Upper North Economy. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you, I hope, Nele Dageförder. Perhaps we'll see her. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm here.
Marvelous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me today. Probably people are asking now, why is she talking about regional relevance for the economy in the Upper North? I think we've heard a lot in the last session about why this is so relevant for the economy in the Upper North. So it's not only a topic for the ecological part, but also for the economy. And we heard that this morning with Minister Buchholz, where he was explaining what the relevance is for the tourism industry, but also for, he is a technology minister as well. And so I think it's actually important to understand why this is not only important for the ammunition part, but it has also a very long trail behind for the maritime industry in the Upper North, which is a very traditional industry here. So we all know that the maritime industry in the Upper North has had its challenges, especially these days. And the number of shipyards in the German economy is on decline. We see a brain drain in the maritime industry, so a lot of young potentials are seeking jobs in their further down south. And at the same time, we are also facing a huge transformation process in the industry. So yes, there is a high relevance for the economy, and I think it's important to understand that, just to give you the overview of that. So today I would like to focus more on the potentials and not on what's going wrong. I also like what Gesine Meissner said before, let's shape what the vision of the future could look like, and that also applies for the maritime economy in the Upper North. So before I start with my presentation, I would first of all like to thank GEOMAR and the Ministry of Environmental Protection, Agriculture and Digitalization, especially Klaus Böttcher, the Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Schleswig-Holstein, short version is IHK, and the Kieler Wirtschaftsförderung, because they all supported the study from an expert point of view, providing the network and also gave financial support.
Sorry,
yes?
I forgot to tell people one important detail. The showcase will begin in about just right after her presentation, which is only going to take about 15 minutes, just so people know. I think I forgot to mention that. It's not off the program. The technology showcase will be back, but it's just going to, just having this wonderful presentation in between. Thank you.
Just give the people a reason to leave now to go to the toilet, right?
No, not at all.
So first of all, the study was conducted by survey and interview technique. So we talked with the relevant stakeholders in the maritime economy in the Upper North. And just to make this clear, we are only focusing now on the economy part and not on the research and development part, because I only have those 10 minutes. And I decided that this was already covered on Monday. And we just take a look at that. So what do we start with? Basically, we were asking ourselves a few questions, what we wanted to know. First of all, we want to know which actors play an important role in the complex topics described for the region as a higher business and a higher education location, and to what extent. The second one was which supporting networks exist beyond the borders, on Denmark and Mecklenburg-Vorpommern to Niedersachsen, and which actors of those are multipliers and thus of decisive importance, possibly also at federal and at European level. Next question. Are there any crystallization points of innovation and technology events? And which processes and projects can be distinguished from each other, and to what extent? And for which ones do special measures or efforts need to be done? What you see now is basically a map that we pulled together. And on the left-hand side, you see which players we do have in the science area, which players we have in economy. The list goes a little bit further down. It's not all in that screenshot. And then when you click on the different players, you get a little summary of what the industry is about, what they're focusing on, where you can find them. I get later to the point why that was important and why we think this is actually a good ground basis, because this is an extendable map and can be extended at any time. So where there is light, there's always shadow as well. One part was definitely the SWOT study, the SWOT analysis. Let me just highlight a few key findings in the SWOT analysis. Basically, the biggest strength of the Upper North is that we do have a very high level of technology in the maritime sector that applies for both, for the economy and for the employment factor. So there's a high interest in the federal, on the state side, because there's also an expert strength, which is a very relevant key factor. We just heard in the last session, it's always important to look at the scalable version of a prototype, of a platform, or for other solutions. Of course, if I don't get this beeping sound. And what is also very significant, and probably some people in this room might not know, we have a very large network when it comes to a startup community. So there we have at least 18 centers for startup, that actually support startups and spin-offs, both at the federal state level. And that is important to know, because at one point where we get to the part that maybe there is a business case and that can be created into a spin-off, that company might need support. On the other hand, and that was actually one of the key findings which we also discussed with the different stakeholders, because that was actually something that was quite controversial, I would say. Whilst 90% of the people that participated in the survey stated that there's a lot of cooperation amongst the companies and the scientific groups being involved, we saw as well, we at the same time saw a gap of companies that were stating we don't know what's going on in this area, but that could be actually of our interest, because we also have an expertise in that area. We would like to know what's going on in order to see if there is some technology that we can contribute. Of course, we ask ourselves why, the reason why. At that point, we can only come up with assumptions. We think that basically that this is a very small community where the economy players and the scientific players know each other very well, and they've been doing quite a few projects together. But this is not necessarily known by smaller players in the industry. But that is only an assumption. One of the biggest risks, and that's probably something that the industry in general is suffering from, is the so-called brain drain. And I would, from my point of view, actually agree, because what needs to be conducted in order to solve the issue now, it might be a platform solution or can be other solutions, is in order to provide the technology for that, you would need a very high level of expertise in that area. And whilst we have 2 universities, at least in Kiel, and 2 more in Flensburg and Lübeck, people are most likely, especially in the area of robotics and data science, they're not really likely to stay in the region, which is at one point becoming a huge problem, because you need people in order to develop the technology that is needed. And at one point, a brain drain can be a big risk for what we need to accomplish. Anyway, we talked a lot about the process, I think. I don't want to go into too much detail of that, but basically what we have along the process chain, and I lined out 2 different options. So first, the option of salvage by underwater vehicles, and at the same time, the platform solution. But in general, those are 3 different areas that need to be solved, which is basically providing potential in the areas of software development, hardware development, and also in service. In the software area, it's mainly the development and usage of big data and AI-based application and methods, as well as the development and use of control software for the control of AUVs and ROVs. In general, for the networking, sensor data, surveillance, monitoring, ideally in a complete system. And on the hardware side, we have the use of AUVs, drones, echo-sounder technology, as well as of a construction, sale, operation, or destruction facility on land. More or less, you still need service. Some people have to be engaged in the project management, also in assessing the site via survey trips. You need project development. You need supervision, monitoring of the salvaging operations. So it's there are a lot of packages in behind of the process. And what is not covered in this value-added potentials, and it was just mentioned previous in the panel discussion before, is the after usage of the cleared munition areas, which is also something we haven't really taken a look at, which could be a potential business case in terms of re-establishing a biodiversity area, or we even discussed options like putting an underwater data center in that cleared area. There are different scenarios. Those are areas that we haven't really taken a look at. So just to give the big picture now, where we're coming from and where this could be heading, everything that can be developed here by the existing companies could be scalable on an international level, and that's why it's important to pretty much look at the area of what is happening right now. And I think that is actually one of the main reasons why the big players like ThyssenKrupp now, or TKMS, said actually there is now a business case for them. But it's not only a business case for a big player. I think we see a lot of companies that are benefiting if we are tackling this problem. So how do we start? I think that was already discussed. First of all, we were very clear about this here today in the different sessions. Legal and funding questions need to be solved first. If this is not being solved, nothing is going to happen. That applies for the funding, but also for the legal part. What was very interesting, I find, and which is also something that was discussed this morning in session 7, the point of view of why don't we have a master plan from a regional point of view, then from a federal point of view, and then from an EU level point of view, because that study actually came up with the recommendation of setting up a master plan on the different levels, and then actually start coming into a so-called co-opetition process, meaning there is a combination of cooperation, at the same time a healthy competition amongst the different economic players. Definitely we need a managed network of all the relevant stakeholders. We definitely need more transparency in terms of communications, because we all think that everyone should benefit from the potential that we have. And maybe one of the starting points could actually be a gap map, where we come up with what is actually still missing in terms of technology, also from a software and hardware point of view, and then really provide a guideline for the companies what they can work for. So I think a gap map could be a very good solution. I also think maybe there are different solutions in the room that should be discussed. Basically, we have many topics, we have many challenges. You get all more in detail in the study, which is available as of today. You just need to scan the QR code. It's at the moment still available and only available in German language. We will do the translation once we put in a little bit more information. We had not enough time to come up to really come up with a fully satisfaction study, but I think it's a dynamic document. I'm happy to hear your feedback as well, and thanks for lending me your ear and listen to what's happening on a regional level with a potential scalability on an international point of view.